Hey guys, welcome. Yeah, sorry, there's been some technical difficulties on my end on how to, actually start this up. Um, but we're here, and welcome to Don't Mind Me, I'm Different live podcast, question and answer stream. This is the launch date. I've been waiting a long time. I kind of pushed it back a couple weeks, and yeah, I'm uh I'm really excited. So for those that are joining us, yeah, thank you for your patience. I'm definitely new to this. And so what I'm gonna do is talk about my show, which is Don't Mind Me, I'm Different. And I'm gonna talk a bit about what that's going to entail. So it's basically about ADHD awareness in the workplace, and making it more like giving my perspective on it, and all the things that I'm learning about strategies on how to manage and cope with ADHD at work, because it's been a huge struggle for me my entire life. I've lost many jobs. I've uh, I've definitely had a lot of struggles with ADHD and didn't know why. Um, Personally, I have ADHD. Um, in my experience, like I just thought it was like a childhood disease or a childhood symptom that I grew out of, which I'm understanding in the case of a lot of other people. Um, so what really sparked all of that was like I had was about to lose my job, and because like people kept telling me that I need to slow down. And yeah, that was it was a scary point in my life, because like I really didn't know how to slow down. I really didn't see it as a problem for a long time. I thought the world just needed to catch up. And so I ended up finally listening, at least to that, and going and talking to my my doctor, and my primary care, and telling him like all the things that were going on, and what do you think? And I kind of had to like steer her in the direction that maybe I have well, I thought it was ADD or AD. I just didn't know what it was. um and she was like, yeah, here's the list. And I ended up, you know um contacting my therapist, my current therapist now. And yeah, it was very interesting. It was a very interesting journey that I'm still continuing to learn, because like I thought initially, after I'd gotten to a certain point, that I was good, that this was something that I didn't have to worry about. And no, I've learned the hard way that this is something that stays. It's not necessarily like a behavioral issue. It's more of a chemical imbalance, and the way that my brain is, or people with ADHD's brain is structured. And yeah, hey to everybody that's in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to get to that in just a moment. I also have some questions for you guys. Um, so what I've learned in this is that there is answers, and there is a solution, and it's helped me, and I want to be able to share that with other people. And I'm continuing to learn and grow. So what I may offer now may change, because I'm looking to get better and to find it, go deeper with it. And that's my vision for the show, is to reach a broader audience, um, and be another voice out there that advocates for ADHD, um, because it's not going away. It's out there, and um, yeah, I want to do showcase that through different interviews coming up, with different people, different walks of life. Whether there's somebody that or somebody that is well known, or just really anybody, um, because to show like we're not alone, and that there are things that you can do, and to put something out there that's easily and readily available, that was hard for me in the beginning to find. I had to do some deep research into, um like just what it's called, like how it affects, and me and other people, and um yeah, and like what are those strategies, and I want to bring those to you guys. And my upcoming episodes are going to be about depression, because I feel like a lot of us are dealing with depression, and that needs to be talked about. So that's my little wrap. Um, if you guys have any questions for me, feel free to ask. If not, I have some questions for you guys. Okay, cool. I don't see any questions. So one of the first questions is, um, what strategies and tools have helped you the most with dealing with ADHD? And if you're watching this video at a later point, you can feel free to drop that in the chat, or send me a um an email, and that'll be, um ronsouers at DADHDWSS.com. Definitely would love to hear, what's helping you and what's working for you, because that's how this works. One thing that's worked for me, um, is mindfulness. Like, I could not have gotten to this point, um, at least right here with with developing this podcast, and yeah, um, like mindfulness is something that I continue to practice, as much as I can on a daily basis, and it has helped to give me that space to be able to not be so impulsive, to not be so reactive to whatever challenges life throws at me. But like I've spoken out before about it, is like it's more of a mid-level tool. I It took me a while to even warm up to the idea of mindfulness, because it's a lot about sitting still with yourself. And for many of us, I know me, it was very hard, um to do that, um to see the value in that. But um honestly, if you give it a try, like, I guarantee you it is well worth it. And it's not about being perfect with it. I'll never be not distracted. That's just part of how the brain works, period. Um, but I've noticed when I'm distracted, I've noticed more of like my emotions and how they are. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things that, and water too. Water and good sleep. Like getting like 8 hours of sleep, that like deep sleep has been like a game changer. Like I notice the difference when I don't get enough sleep or I don't get enough water. As I'm drinking some water. All right, so I don't see any other questions. Next question: who was the character to play in all nine Star Wars films? The only character to be in that. Okay, we have a question. How it says that if you don't mind, what is the process involved getting an ADHD evaluation? That's a good question, Michael. Thanks for showing up, man. You've always been there. Um, yeah, Michael's a good friend, and I've known him for a long time with Sports Talk Dog. Um, yeah, yeah. You would go about like I said. Um, there's a formal evaluation. And I've talked to my therapist about that. I don't think I've actually been through the formal evaluation, but anytime you go to a therapist or a psychologist, and they're pretty adept at um at giving those like assessments because they've seen a usually they've seen a broad spectrum of the different types, whether it's like autism or PTSD or um, BPD, and so the formal evaluation is something that that I've heard that can be flawed, and they usually don't test for it in adults. They are developing a test for it, um, from what I've heard, and yeah, because it's still perceived as something that's a childhood symptom, but you can get an evaluation from any therapist if you feel like you have um difficulty focusing, or um maybe you get have a lack of, like, you show up late all the time, or you have an inability to start tasks, or you procrastinate a lot, or there's a lot of perfectionism. um those symptoms combined can really, like, you know yeah, like, yeah, like kind of lead the way to, like, hey, maybe I do have this. And there's different levels of it. Some take medication. A lot of it, most of it, I would say, is beneficial through therapy. And and just practicing what that how what they're teaching you. Because if I didn't practice any of this stuff and continue to practice it in my life, like especially the breathing, um and keeping notes, and making sure that I put reminders everywhere, um yeah, I could not be the the person that I am today. So I hope that answered your question. Um, cool. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Um, so, um, so the last question was, who was the character to play in all nine Star Wars films? I know. I was thinking like Chewbacca. Guess there's not too many Star Wars fans out there. Um, but that's okay. It was actually C3PO. Um, he's been a staple He's actually been he's actually played in more Star Wars, um, like, outside that role than actually in those films. And he said he wants to continue to suit up, um, for more episodes, for more, as long as he can, which is cool, even though he can be a bit much. And he might be the one with ADHD too. Um, so the next question is, what is the hardest part about ADHD that isn't often talked about? Again, if you're listening to this, after it posts, definitely send in send in your replies or your answers or your questions to my email. A short 60-second um like little audio clip is the best. So because I'll feature that on the episode. Um, so if you want to actually get on a podcast, just send one of those in to my email, ronsouers, RONSOUERS at DADHDWSS.com. Um, so I think the one thing that's not really talked about in my experience is, um, the negative self-talk and um the side of it where like we actually feel bad about forgetting stuff, like, and we would like to remember, but it's just it's just not possible to do that all the time. um and getting frustrated, a lot of people don't understand that, the littlest thing can set me off, especially somebody else's mood. I'm generally, you know, very, very sensitive to other people's mood. And, I tend to get very like I imitate I feed off of that. And that feeds my emotional state. So I could be up 1 minute and then the next because somebody says something that I don't like or something that, you know, um, disturbs my mood. Like I can, it's tough for me to just continue to like to get past that. So I don't think that a lot of people, generally understand what that's like. And if anybody else feels the same way, definitely feel free um to mention that, because it's definitely something that needs to be talked about more. Because it's really about the understanding. Like this is this is not something people are doing on purpose. Like it's something that it's just biochemically we can't help it. Um, our brain's just not designed to to process that type of emotion. It's we feel like on a whole like a lot more intense. The intensity of the emotions that we feel is incredible. Um, yeah. So the next question is, how has ADHD affected your learning style growing up or, now or in school? Yeah, I know for me, my learning style has been very, very sporadic. Like a lot of like when growing up, I was definitely cramming for tests. I was always last minute. I was always, um, yeah, like waiting to the absolute last minute because I hated doing the schoolwork. I didn't really see the benefit of it, and not that I didn't learn anything in school. It's just like this book that I'm reading, by Adam Grant called "The Hidden Potential." It talks about um like like to a degree that life is rarely multiple choice. Like it's easier to like when you kind of know the information you can study it, um but actually applying it is a lot different. There's very few fields and of study um that really embrace, that'll be like, oh, it's only going to be these four answers. It's rarely that way. um so now my learning style is still kind of all over the place. Like I'm reading like four different books, but like I'm learning that I love to learn. And I'm also trying to learn Spanish on my job. So just by talking, with people, um a couple different people and let them know, look, I'm trying to get better with Spanish. Can you help me? Because like I see the value in that. Um and yeah, it's scary because it's hard and I don't want to get it wrong. But it's also like there are so many people of all walks of life that have ADHD. And, if I can do that for me to bridge that gap, it's worth learning that. And plus the connections that I've gotten just from trying. Um they're so welcoming, most of the people that I've told that to. So I definitely recommend it. It's really like I've like definitely struggled with Spanish. I've taken Spanish for like 2 years in high school and then got on Duolingo. Mike, you know that. And still couldn't speak it because I wasn't actually trying to speak it. Um, it's not going to do any good for me to just keep it in there. And now that I'm starting to speak it, it's like, wow, I do actually have like a lot of information, like stored information that's coming back up. So it's not like I'm learning from scratch. Um, yeah. All right. Um, so I don't see any other questions. We're gonna go back to a Star Wars one. Um, so how do you think the story would have changed if Luke joined his father, like to the dark side? He came to the dark side. Luke finally came to the dark side, and succumbed. And how do you think that would have looked? Okay, so yeah, I really think that that would have been an amazing story. And just to see like the fall. And like Luke is a very powerful Jedi. And you know there's a lot of debate, whether, I mean, there I feel like they're both pretty corrupt, the Jedi and the Sith, and um, like we all are. There's no real clear cut good guys and bad guys. Like they both, they both. Some of them are just more secretive, and more. The others are just more blatantly out in the open and don't care. Um, but I feel like there's no real bad guys in a sense. Um, like no one goes out. There's very few people that just go out and are like, I don't care, and even those, like, they just don't have the ability to empathize or sympathize, or like they just don't have that connection. Um, so they all have their own good reasons, like their own good intentions behind what they were doing. I'm sure Palpatine um was thinking that he was doing the right thing, in a way, because he saw the corruption that was going on with the Jedi, and Anakin did too, before he even turned. So there there was some justification behind it, but I'm not saying that, any of them are right. It's just it is a fantasy, and to in my personal opinion, I love, like, the bad guys are so much more interesting. The reasons why they do things, their character arc, and especially the bad guys that turn around into doing good. Um, that's a huge arc. And if Luke had done that, then Darth wouldn't have had a that arc that he had. So, yeah, I'm definitely can go on a rant about that. So, yeah, the next question that I have is, do you think ADHD presents itself differently in children's, teens, and adults? Feel free to answer, or have any questions. This is what this part is here for. Again, I'm excited for this opportunity. There's a lot of people that expressed their admiration and support of what I'm trying to do, and that means a lot, because like, we need all the help that we can get, all the support that we can get, and as many voices out there that can talk about this. um and my vision for it is having this transform the work environment, and how companies see the value in the understanding and learning of this, because it goes there's a science behind everything. um and I see the value in so many things, in just the understanding of it, and getting more people the right help, um by allowing them to be like, hey, this is something that has has a a way to manage it, has a solution, has something for other people. um so yeah, I do think it does present differently. um but I don't think that it's necessarily the things change. It's just the way we adapt to those different chemical imbalances, and um because like you see young kids either they don't, they're not as attentive, or they have they have trouble maintaining attention, or they're running all over the place. You don't see that a lot in as much in teens or adults. Um, but it doesn't mean that it's not there. Like for me, my mind is always racing, and it's always going off the rails on some some crazy idea. Like before this show, and definitely, with those technical difficulties, I was a little bit of panic because I couldn't figure it out. And there was people waiting, and of course, you know, and I was like, that's it, that's the end, doom and gloom. Um, and I just got to continue to make my way around, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Um, I tried, and not everything works out. Um, so yeah, I definitely think there's different learning styles, and one of the other questions about ADHD is, what advice would you give your younger self about anything, really? But if you have ADHD, definitely. Thank you guys for showing up. I definitely really appreciate the support. Yeah, I would definitely tell myself that it's gonna be all right. Like I would say, to all the therapy sessions, I would just say, just give it a chance. Um, I don't know. I would just say, it's gonna be all right. Like the dreams that you have now may not be the dreams that you have later, but it's okay. I would just say, the only thing I would say was, it's okay, because I feel like the path that I took made me who I am today. And if you change that, I don't know if I would be the same person that I love and appreciate today. Like I don't know if I would have loved myself as much as I'm beginning to try, to understand and appreciate, and that's important. That's very important in my life, is like the warm feeling that I have is like that I'm okay just the way I am. I don't have to try to be anybody else. Like it's not going to work. I've tried that. I've tried to do things, and and look for um validation through other people, and by buying things and getting things and doing things, and that never that's a never, it's a bottomless pit. It's never, like, for me, that's probably one of the things I was like, don't care about what other people think about you. Really, it does not matter. Um like there are certain people that you want to care about. Like, I care about what my mom thinks about me, what my good friends think about me, what my therapist is thinking about, what I'm trying to do. But other than that, um, like my gauge is, if they've shown me that they care about who I am and helping me to grow, then I can start to care about what those people think. But if they haven't done any of that, they haven't earned that right. Um, that's a special place. Like I have only so much that I can care about. and negative things, negative perceptions, and, you know, people that just aren't in a place to give that. Like can't I can't afford to invest in that because that affects my mental health. So, yeah, that's probably what I would say. Okay, cool. Um, this is exciting. Thank you for the thumbs up. You know, um, like I said, I definitely appreciate all the support I needed. And I'm glad it was such a close friend that was here. Um, thank you, Michael. You're the man. I'm sure raising two kids is difficult, and you made time for this. So I know it's kind of early too. So all right, there's just gonna be a couple more questions, and then I'm probably gonna shut it down unless some more people show up. So the next one is: should the Sith be explored more, or the dark secrets of the Jedi? So stories about the Sith, um, or the darker side of of uh of Star Wars. Because I definitely, yeah, I appreciate that, Mike. Thank you. Um, yeah, I definitely, you can tell I like I like the loving side, but it's when it comes to fantasy, and it's weird. It's like it's much more interesting to me to see. I don't know if it's the realism. That part needs to be explored more. Maybe that's still a part of, that negative. Makes me feel better when I I see somebody doing worse than me. I'm trying to get better with that, but yeah, I definitely think that there's a lot of, um, value and interesting stories that are like untouched. Especially about the Jedi and and the old Republic, and how they actually had um a secret prison for that nobody knew about, not even like Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Vader ended up finding it out later, um because he would capture a lot of Dooku's soldiers and commanders in the Clone Wars. Um, so for them to keep secrets like that, as somebody that's an upholder of peace and justice, from their own government, is shows a level of corruption. Um, that and there's so many different things that have happened, and countless lives could have been saved if they would have opened their mind to certain things and not been so strict, and you know potentially they could have avoided, you such a darkness, not and that just, like, yeah, I'm definitely waxing on that. And yeah, so for the final question, can you share a moment where you realize ADHD as a superpower than a challenge? So we're gonna end on a positive note. So when did you realize like this was actually something like that could help you, and no one else had this ability? Or you were like, you know what? This ADHD thing is kind of cool. It's kind of like, yeah. All right, so I don't know, like when I realized that about myself, like I realized it when I was starting to read these, go more in depth and like the ability to go in depth and just go down a rabbit hole. Like I was like, you know what? Because I've always been told don't go down that rabbit hole. You don't want to, and yeah, there's certain rabbit holes you do not want to go down, like that social media rabbit hole, um, because it can often be, a dark place. But I'm trying to put some light out there with this. But I understood like, hey, my love for learning and my focus on getting to the bottom of things and being able to connect seemingly unconnected ideas is like, wow. Like I always just thought everybody saw things that way. But when I started to do the research, I understood like not everybody thinks in this way. So I have an ability to see things from a different perspective that most other people can't. And that's when I was able to see the value in like, hey, maybe if we got together and looked at this with as many people from different walks of life, that maybe we could start to figure this thing out. And ways to be able to get more people in to just understanding, like the basic understanding. And like for me it took a deep level of acceptance of the fact that I have ADHD and that it's not going anywhere, so I can either struggle with it or I can find ways and start to experiment with things that continuously might help, and that there's other ways and there's so many other people out there, that there's so many podcasts, there's so many articles, and it's all out there, but it's so ADHD in the way that it's displayed. Yeah, it's it's mind blowing. And putting like I've I feel like one of my like my purpose is to pull that all together, and kind of simplify it and synthesize it so that it's like it's more readily available and understood by not just people with ADHD but of all walks, and hopefully that spurns other people in other fields, and with other mental, health differences, that in their field like they can find the same type of understanding, and that we can coexist together in a and I feel like that will help make the world a better place. So yeah, I've definitely talked a long time, and I thank you guys, I thank you um for showing up and supporting me. And if you like, hit that subscribe button, listen to the new podcast episodes. Um, yeah, there's definitely a lot. There's a couple of them. One of them is with Russ Jones, and that guy. He has his own ADHD podcast called ADHD Big Brother, and a community by coaching, and he's really doing his thing. Um, and he's got a few good episodes, so I definitely recommend you checking him out. Also, the Happiness Lab is something that I really like, and the other interview that I guess that I had on my show was Jake Ruzi, and he's got his own like, or if you're into education and organizing, um, like he helps educators organize their workload so they don't get burnt out. That could definitely help on anybody's workload. Um, but I feel like educators definitely need it a lot because they have a lot on their plate, and they typically aren't funded and given, you know, given the the credit and due that they need because our children are our future, especially those with those mental health differences. They definitely are going. They need as much support as they can get at an earlier age to be able to to help them succeed and thrive. Um, yeah, so definitely check it out, subscribe, and yeah, you have a great weekend. Thank you for showing up.